Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to Babeinlibrary. It's your girl Lisa, and today we're going to talk about the 25 books that I want to prioritize in 2025. So I pulled 25 books off of my physical shelf because I have a goal for this year to read or get my TBR shelf down to under 50%. I have been sitting at 58% of unread books on my shelf for so long that it's finally time to tackle them. And so the best way that I figured I could do this is to ask you all to be accountable for me reading these books. Yes, I need some accountability partners. So if anyone wants to do a buddy read, if anyone wants to do live sprints, that's another goal for my year of 2025. These are some of the books that I'm going to be prioritizing. A lot of these are books that I have plans to have videos for. I am going to meet the author, so I do want to read them before. And then some of these have just been on my shelves for far too long, and it's time to read them or unhaul them. So let's jump in to talk about the 25 books that I want to read in 2025. Starting with Queen Beverly Jenkins, I want to read Destiny's Embrace. This is book 1 in the Destiny series. Now, I started off with book 2, which I believe is Destiny Surrender. It was a premise that I could not refuse, and I had to read it. And I absolutely loved it. It was the first, I want to say, Beverly Jenkins book that I read. So I want to go back and read Destiny's Embrace because I did get to see our main male character, Logan, and his now wife in that story, how they interacted and overcome and their obstacles. I want to go back and read their story so I can get the full picture of what I may have been missing out because I jumped into book 2. Keeping on with the historical romance vibes, I want to read A Caribbean Heiress in Paris by Adriana Herrera. This has like a beautiful, stunning woman on the cover. I love Adriana, and I believe that she is talented and can write in any particular genre, but I want to read her historical fiction, and so Caribbean Heiress in Paris is the first one that I need to start with, and then I'll continue on because I do have the second book in the series, and the third one is coming out this year. So this is another historical romance that I want to prioritize in 2025. This author is actually going to be in St. Louis this month, but I am not going to go see her because I will be seeing her in May. And I want to give myself a moment to read this book, which is The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest. This is a booktube, bookstagram, book talk darling. Everyone that has read Christina Forrest's Neighbor Favor has loved it. Very similar to the Destiny series. I jumped into this series in book 2 and I read the sisters book. And it was okay, but again, I want the true Christina Forrest experience, and I want to be able to love her writing, and this is the one that everyone says is her standout favorite. So it's time for me to read this one and really see what all of the hype is about. This next author is one where I met her, and I really enjoyed her in person, so I wanted to patronize her and make sure that she was coming back to bookish events. So I bought her entire catalog, not having read it, and that is the true faith in getting to know and experiencing an author and then going back to enjoy their work, which you get to do when you meet them in person at bookish events. So that person is going to be Sherelle Green. I want to read Grown Folks Confession. This is the start of her series. And like I said, I purchased the entire series, but this book right here has just received a audiobook copy for. And so I do want to support it. If I can get my hands on the audiobook, I will read it in tandem. If not, I think I can experience this with my eyeballs and look at this gorgeous couple. Like, this is how you sell a book. Another book that I want to read in 2025 was on one of my TBRs in 2024 that I never got to. And I think it's time because I am in this emotional state that I want to read books that could make me potentially cry. And I think Rosie Adams' The Gift may just do that for me. This premise of this story is captivating. It is a story about a woman. She decides to be a surrogate mother for her best friend because her best friend had some fertility issues, and her best friend wound up passing away. And she is currently pregnant with her best friend's baby. And she is trying to say, okay, well, what do I do? Her husband, my best friend's husband, is still alive and he wants his child, but I have started to create a bond, and this is the final thing that I have with my best friend. How can I partner with her father to be in this child's life and give them the mothering and nurturing experience. And they wind up grieving together and falling in love, which seems very taboo. It's one of those questions where, would my best friend want me to be happy with her husband? And I actually asked one of my best friends about this, and because of this very book, and we talked it through, and I thought it was a very interesting conversation, but I want to see how it plays out in writing. So this is definitely one of the books that I want to prioritize in 2025. This one is a booktube book talk darling. Like, when it talks about Black mafia romances, the series is, you know, one of the gold standards. And so I for sure need to get to Asia Monique's Sinful Vows. This is a special edition. What a beautiful special edition this is. This is the first in what I believe is like a 9-book series. Asia Monique has been one of those authors that have been on my list to read for a very long time, and 2025 is the time to do it, because I hear that this is giving Black mafia excellence. Like, the men are down bad for their women, and that is what I love. Give me somebody as rough in all of the right ways, but it's soft and gentle for me. I have high hopes for this series. This next book I have been interested in because it has one of my favorite micro tropes. And I think, again, it stems from one of the first books that got me back into reading romances in my adult career. And so I had no choice but make sure that I support this author. Plus, they had a great sale. Like, they were selling this book for $5. And I was like, excuse me? And that is Love on the Ninth Floor by Aries Sky. This author will also be at a bookish event in May, and the second book in the series came out. So I may just read this one and jump right into the second book, because this is a story, and I hear it's really kind of similar to Curvy Girl Summer in terms of it's really primarily focusing on, you know, what it's like to be in the dating experience, how to go on numerous of dates, and you just wind up finding your person in an organic fashion, which is my dream, right? Like, I do not want to slog through terrible dates. I do not want to slog through the cesspool that is online dating. I want to find somebody organically, preferably if I can meet them in an elevator and we can rise to the top together. That's what I'm hoping this book gives me. But either way, I am very interested to read this, and it's going to be one of my choices for 2025. That one I just talked about, it's a little bit toss up in the air whether or not I will love it. But this next one, these next, I think 4 in particular, are books that I know I'm going to love. Specifically because this next one is by my top author of 2024. Like, the author that came in and blew my socks off. The author that I purchased her entire backlist because meeting her in person, reading 2 of her books, really did solidify as a top writer for me. I'm going to be picking up Chaser by Therese M. Clarke. One of the things that I have been blessed with is being on Therese's ARC list. So I have this in digital copy. I do know that she is going back and creating audiobooks for all of her books, but I don't know if I can wait for the audio of this to come out, because this is my vibes. If you give me a beautiful Black, natural, curly-headed woman, give me smoked whiskey, and give me flowers, you are asking for me to be summoned. Like, you're asking me to appear and just bask in the glory. And then this gets me a little bit on my Cowboy Carter romance type vibes, because I believe she is a billionaire, but also the gentleman she falls in love with, which we did meet in the first book, which was Heartbeat, he is also a rich rancher, and so it gives me a little bit of that Southern comfort and love that I've been looking for. I haven't read any cowboy romances here recently, but if I did, it needed to be a Black cowboy, and Chaser is the one. Again, another book that I know I'm going to love is going to be T.M. Richardson's sequel in the Secret series. This is the Offer, actually, and I love that this character's name is Elisa. They abbreviate it to Lisa, which is my name, of course, so I'm already feeling the vibes. This is the woman, an older woman. I believe she is in a relationship with 2 younger men. And if you know me, my vibe is older woman, younger man. If I'm going to read an age gap, let it be where the woman is being loved on properly by some young stallions. And she has not one but two. So I am very excited to get to this. Lisa is a firecracker. I did enjoy her in The Oath and how she just was a ball of fun. And I'm hoping that she stays the same in this book. I do not want her to change. And I want her to have a little bit of fun with these two young men. I love a good marriage in crisis in a book. Let me make sure I state that. In real life, I want y'all to be living y'all happily ever after in marital bliss. I do not want any particular conflicts, but conflicts do arise in a marriage. And when it's in a written book and one that I know they're getting there happily ever after, I want to read about it. And so I'm going to be reading Bookmarked by Bella J. This was a book that was out a few years back that had been killing the scenes, and probably for good reasons, because in this series, or at least in this book particularly, the writer has crafted a story about a woman going on a divorce moon with her husband. He takes her to a private vacation where they've always wanted to travel together to be their last hurrah, right? Like, let's do the things we never did, and the things that we had wished and dreamed for us. But really, it's his chance to tell her, hey, I've loved you. This is our time and we need to be together. I've heard it's going to make me sob. And one thing about me, I love to cry over a book. So I want to see this couple find their way back to each other and live in romantic bliss. So I will be reading Bookmark, and that's just that. Speaking of marriages, I'm going to be reading Somebody's Wife by Robbie Renee. This is the opposite of Bookmarked in terms of this is a story about a woman who is married and a man who has just been divorced. And they are working together on a project, and somehow I believe she's probably unhappily married, and unfortunately she decides to step out on her husband with this man, and they get entangled. And it's about, do you fight what you feel like is right and what you feel is love, because you're unhappy? What happens with that natural fallout, and how do you all work to get your happily ever after? Again, I don't necessarily promote cheating, but in books, I'm gonna gobble it up. So Somebody's Wife is going to be read for me. Now, I want to move on to the 4 books that I have to read that will be the final in the series. Like, I have to read these 4 books so that I can close out a series and be done. If you haven't seen, I just posted a series update or check-in, and so you may have already heard about these 4 books. We're going to talk about them again just so I can have that accountability. First being Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. This is the final in a sapphic series by Ashley Herring Blake. I have really enjoyed this series, starting with Delilah Green Doesn't Care, moving on to Astrid Parker Doesn't Feel, and now my favorite friend in this friend group, Iris, is going to get her love story. And this is a little bit of a, I'm reluctant to date. We just want to have romp and have fun. I vowed that I would never marry, but you're making me second guess myself. And so I definitely have to read this to close out the series. This next book is one that I've been holding off for forever. Like, I have been trying not to read it, not because I don't think that I'm going to enjoy it, but mainly because I just did not want the series to end. But the author did release, actually this past weekend, that there's going to be a spin-off series with the younger generation. So I feel like it is okay for me to read this because I know that there's more coming in the Salacious Players Club family. So I'm going to finally finish off this Salacious Club Player series by reading Madame, which is Eden's book. It is an FFM, and if you don't know what that means, that is female-female-male relationship. So I want to read this because Eden has always been that mysterious woman that we wanted to be, right? We wanted to emulate her. We wanted to know her story. We wanted to experience what it's like to be a baddie and to be a woman in a man's world where she has the riches, she holds the power, and she wields it at her discretion. And I have been dying to get to this, but like I said, I've been savoring it, not knowing that this was going to be the end. But now that Sarah says that there is a spin-off series, you bet your bottom dollar I feel I feel like I'm ready to close out this chapter so I can get to the younger kids. The next series I need to complete is A.H. Cunningham's The Firecracker Cousins. This one, I want to go in a little bit blind. These two characters have familiarity. They have a, common friend group and interest, but they had a night of passion. As you can see, this character gets pregnant, and it's not a secret, so it's not a secret baby. It is not a surprise pregnancy. Well, I guess it is a surprise pregnancy, but it's not a surprise to the male character because he's able to see that he is having a child that is being born. Unfortunately, he is in the military and he's on active duty, so he's away for a lot of the pregnancy, but he still wants to be involved in his child's life. And truly, he wants to be involved with the mother, but it's their push and pull of whether or not they should be in a relationship, whether or not they should raise the child together, or whether or not, it's just not meant and in the cards, and she needs to do it by herself. So I hear that this is one of the favorite couples of the author, and so if that is the case, I know that she poured her heart and her love into these characters, and they're happily ever after. So I can't wait to get to Embers. And the last series I need to close out is going to be Harbor by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This is the final books in the Beard and Bondage series. This again is a little bit emotional because this is a polyamorous relationship between two men and one woman, and they are fighting through grief. Their significant others were in a relationship behind their backs. There was a tragic accident where they all died, and now they're just finding this out, right? Like, it is news to them that their partners had stepped out on them and that they were living this alternate life. And so they're trying to put the pieces together about what exactly happened, what went wrong in their relationships, and they're doing it together, and they wind up, consoling one another and becoming a couple. And every book in this series has gotten better. The first book I didn't like. The second book was fantastic. And I'm hoping that this third book is like the coup de grace, where she ends off this series with a bang and something that is going to alter my brain chemistry. Because one thing that Rebecca Weatherspoon is good about is those dynamics, the ability to communicate with one another, the ability to explore passions, explore kinks, but in a responsible way. And I'm very interested to see how she does with Harbor. Now, the final set of books are all on here for a various or a multitude of reasons. As I'm talking about series, there are series that have many books left to go, and this is one of them. I still have to continue on with the Mulvaney Brothers series, which is called Necessarily Evils. This one is Moonstruck, and I believe that this is most people's favorite in the series. This is definitely centering, I believe, Atticus. Atticus Mulvaney. He is the favorite of his adoptive father's children, right? So this is a psychopath relationship where you have one man who is a doctor, but he is also a serial unaliver. And he has a case, and he meets the love interest, and that person is also out to end their mutual narc. So they're targeting the same person, and they say, hey, you're out for this person, and I'm out for this person. Let's do it together. Because Atticus doesn't like to get his hands dirty. He's like, hey, I want to do it in the cleanest way possible, and I want to be done with it. Where the other person is like, you don't know that I can clean it up and make it look great, right? Like, I can make it look like it never happened. And so they find that, okay, well, maybe we should just do it together and this be like our romantic date night. Like, let's go ahead and take out this list of people together and make it a time. And so I am very interested to read this one because, again, like I said, it's most people's favorite in the series, and I want to know why. This next book, I am ashamed to say I own the entire series. I bought it together, right? Like, I bought the entire series knowing that it was the book series of the book series. Like, if you ask a person about what series they would recommend to someone unabashedly, even though it has some serious spicy topics, a lot of people may, say Sierra Simone's pre-series, and like I said, I own it, and I have not read it. I have never picked it up. I own it physically and audiobook for each one of these books. Like, at this point, I should be ashamed how much Sierra Simone I have that I have never read from. So I may have to do a author backlog review of her entire catalog that of what I own particularly, but I definitely need to read Priest, and I need to read the series. So this is me saying 2025 is the year. Like, the time is now to make sure that I'm on the train and understand why everyone loves this series and why everyone loves Sierra Simone. So one thing's for sure, this has got to get read. This next author is actually probably on their final strike with me. So this is where I need to say, maybe this author isn't for me. This is the test right here. This book right here, The Worst Kept Secret by QB Tyler, is the book that I am choosing as her third attempt of whether I determine that this author is for me or not. I have plans for this because one of my friends keeps saying, hey, you've got to read this series. You got to read this series. Like, this is their favorite series from QB Tyler. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to hear you out because I haven't had the best track record. And it's not because it's taboo. I adore taboo romance, or so I think in my mind, but I am specific about the type of taboo romance that I read. And so I'm going to give this one a shot. And if I give it a shot and it's like, you tried, you failed, move on, this may be a deal breaker for me. So we're going to read The Worst Kept Secret, and I'm going to come back and tell you if I think QB Tyler is the author for me, or if I'm just going to let you girlies have it. As I'm speaking about taboo, this is a book that has been on my TBR shelf for the longest. I don't just mean my physical shelf. Like, I have been a Goodreads user since, I want to say, 2011, and I'm pretty sure this book has been on there since 2011, if not 2012, when it came out. And I don't see many people reading this. I haven't heard of it talked about. It is taboo and it's young adult. That is going to be Forbidden by Tabitha Suzuma. This one is one that I want to read, and it matches my nails, so I absolutely love that. This one is a sibling relationship. Now, hear me out. These two are true brother and sisters. They are young adults, but they are put in this situation where they are forced to grow up and raise their younger siblings as the parents, right? So the mother is either absent of their life or not necessarily present. They're in a situation where they have to rear their younger siblings. They have to provide for them. They have to almost assume the identities of mother and father and rely on one another. And it may not necessarily actually be a intimate romantic relationship, but it is a relationship that builds their dependency of one another. They have codependent. They have these unnatural feelings towards one another in a romantic setting because this is their person. This is my soulmate. It just happens to be my sibling. Now, I do not believe that this book is banned, nor do I believe that they take it past that threshold, because I have not heard that. But I do want to see how these two cope in being in this situation from a psychological standpoint. Again, this is by Simon Teen, so I do not feel like it's going to go towards the truly incestuous place, but so many people have talked about this and the way in which Tabitha Suzuma has written it. And I want to be able to knock this one off of my list and see what I think. I will also be reading Marnie Mann's Even If It Hurts. I am going to challenge myself in 2025 to read a book that has a trope that I don't necessarily care for. And this one is a love triangle. But I hear it is the best version of a love triangle because this person is actually in a relationship. She is married. She is with the love of her life. But someone from her past, the person that she truly believes is her soulmate, comes back into her life. And it is a will they, won't they of whether or not she wants to continue on being the person that she is today, the person that she was forced to be because she had to disassociate from her past life, or if she's going to say, actually, this is not working for me. I've been cosplaying as this person, and I think there's an opportunity for me to find happiness in what I was truly meant to be. The next 5 books are books that I'm just like, I want to pick you up because the covers are gorgeous, because there's Black romance, because you've been on my mind and I've been seeing you on a Bookstagram, and it's like, I have to be in the know. Starting with Mel Dow's My Choice Is You. This man taunts me. Like, he sits on the shelf and is like, hey, babe, you ready for me yet? Like, are you ready to become my woman? Are you ready to give me your undivided attention? And I am. And I love that this book, I believe it has autism representation, which the author also has identified that this book is very important to her for that very reason. So I am very interested in reading this and seeing what this gentleman on this cover has in store for me. So, Meldal, me and you, this is it. I fear that if I pick up one of her books, that I may just start like this binge of reading the rest of our backlog. Like, she had a sale and I bought 3 to 4 books just off GP. Like, I was just like, oh, you are the one that the girlies talk about. Like, they eat you down, and I fear I must consume as well. Like, I fear that 2025 is begging me to give you a chance and for me to sit at the table and never get up. And I think that I'm ready, because Brianna Dene, Keep You to Myself, is one that I hear time and time again. I want to love this so bad that I bought the sequel in the series. And like I said, I bought more than this, right? But I have her digital catalog as well. So, needless to say, I may become a Brianna Dene girly, and that's okay with me, because one thing that the lady has got is her packaging down pat, her marketing down pat. She is churning and burning, and I'm ready to be one of the, Brianna stands. That's what I'm ready for. Now, this one, as I said, I want to be an emotional reader. I want to be able to understand why people are saying they are broken inside because of this book. And when I saw it on Pango for sale, I said, add to cart immediately. Because Millie Belisar's Fast is one that the people say it alters them. Like, they read it and they have to, like, really sit within their emotions and be locked in a room like Brandy. Like, they sitting up in their room just reflecting. And here I am. This is me. If I love this, y'all are never going to hear the end of it. Like, you're never going to hear the end of me reading this book. So I probably don't need to read it now. But, baby, when I do, you will know. Fast. Now, I've got 2 more books. Now, these 2 books are the 2 authors that, when I tell you their catalog is extensive, and if you ask anybody, they say, hey, if I needed to pick somebody up, if I wanted to read Black romance that has been given the stamp of approval, that has a great storyline, that has great spice, who are the 2 authors that you think they're going to say? Put it down in the chat. Like, these 2 authors are the ones that, in my mind, if I hear someone say Black romance and they don't have one of these 2 authors on their list, I'm going to be looking like, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Like, put it in the chat. Tell me who that is. Because if you didn't say Alexandria House or Christina C. Jones, what are we talking about? Alexandria House, I started her, I want to call it the Gold series. I don't think that's what it's called. The St. Louis series. Lisa, you should have knew that. Like, the entire purpose of you even thinking about Alexandria House when you first got here is because you thought she was from St. Louis, and you were like, yeah, I'm gonna put my people on, I'm gonna support, even though she don't need me to be her advocate. One thing Alexandria House doesn't need is little old Babeinlibrary toting out her books, because she sells. Like, the stories sells themselves. She has a way of, like, getting her marketing out there. The lady don't need me, but I'm going to give it to her anyway. I'm going to give you that promotion. But this is the St. Louis series. It is the second in the series. It's a Black hockey romance. You heard me. Black hockey romance. I know hockey romance has been toted out on these webs for years and years and years. And it's been very popular. But one thing we don't hear about is Black hockey. And when I tell you Black hockey, she said, it's fiction and I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to create a black NHL. Like, I'm going to make it so that it's present in today, 2025, this year. Like, I'm not going back to when they wouldn't let us play in the league. No. I'm creating my own league, and it's going to be black excellence, as one does. So, holding, definitely on the list. This is a second chance romance between a couple who was married. She is, I believe, a real estate agent. He is the hockey goalie or one of the enforcers. But either way, it's them trying to identify where they went wrong. Hopefully there is some groveling. I hear that's like a pet iguana. Doesn't matter. I'm reading it. And last but not least, like I said, is Christina C. Jones. Like, at this point in my reading career, I don't think that I could ever catch up to reading all of her books. I believe CCJ has like 80 something books. I could be exaggerating, but if it's not 80, it feels like 80. But that's okay, because this one here is Equivalent Exchange. The reason why I'm putting this on my list, because I want to do, this is again another accountability moment, I want to do a video related to Black men in therapy. And if you happen to have any recommendations for that, put them down in the chat below. This is one of them that I hear has therapy representation. I don't know if it's from the female's perspective or the male's perspective. So I do want to figure this out from, reading it. But this is one where I believe it was a workplace romance that these two characters center, I believe, a whiskey house. When, again, your girl drinks whiskey. That's my drink of choice. So, you mean to tell me that there's therapy discussion in here, there is whiskey-related topics, and there are Black people falling in love? Just like I told you with Chaser, these are things that if you put them out there, it's like you're summoning me, and Babeinlibrary will appear. Don't worry about it. I am there with you. So, this is what I will be reading as well. This concludes my 25 for 25. Like I said, I need you all to keep me accountable. Let me know if you all want to do any buddy reads. Let me know if you happen to have any recommendations for men in therapy. If you happen to have any recommendations for videos centering these books. If you don't want to do any of that and you want to just leave me an emoji, leave me a car emoji for Keep You to Myself. And I will talk to y'all next time. Bye.